All right, well, I guess we can get started then. This is the annual Spiritualism and Anarchy discussion. We talk about how you don't have to be an atheist to be an anarchist, although there are a lot of them.
And also the idea that spirituality is more than, or can be more, or other than just a religious belief involving a deity or a god. So there are aspects there that are worth including in one's life, along with study of anarchy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely believe that we have the power to manifest our own reality. So if we, focus on the beautiful things in life, we'll get more of those. If I tell you to look for the color green in a room and then walk away and tell me where you saw the color red, you're not going to really see it, but or remember where it was. And it's kind of the same thing for manifesting your reality. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Spirituality, it's not all about worship. Find positive things in your environment that encourage you to lead a more positive life. And like she said, like attracts like. If you have a positive outlook, I think positive things will come towards you. And if you have a negative outlook, negative things will happen to you.
I think, too, the concept of meaning is very important. Like, what gives my life meaning, or my actions? What meaning do I find, or purpose do I find? Personally, I'm agnostic or atheist, somewhere in that realm, but I do look for things that have meaning that I assign to the activities that I do. And so that's a search that I'm doing within myself. What, how do I want to live? What do I want to do? And what values do I have? And a lot of that involves connecting with other people, with learning, with growing as an individual. And these are things that I would call spiritual, at least for myself, how I define spiritual.
I got into sacred geometry about 3.5 years ago, where I learned about frequency and how frequency affects the shapes that we see all the time, but sometimes we don't notice. And I think this concept is actually becoming more popular, to understand that the universe is nature by numbers. And what were you just, I'm sorry, say what you were saying again about, I'm lost. A short-term memory.
We're disappointing the audience.
No, they're loving it. I can see they're loving it. Finding meaning, assigning purpose in what I do, and the values of learning and connecting with other people.
So I just learned about 528 hertz frequencies, which is the love frequency. And it resonates at this level. It's what plants resonate at. And then the opposite of that is 741 hertz levels, which is actually known as the devil's tone, and it creates fear and anxiety. And they actually play this on the radio. So I think for me, what spirituality means is like finding out, things that are unseen. Focus your eyes on what is unseen rather than what is seen, because what is seen is only temporary and what is unseen is eternal.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with Bruce's take on that spirituality. When you don't have any spirituality in your life, your life tends to lack meaning, it tends to lack focus, and it tends to lack purpose. And that's why I try to look for the meaning behind life, how we can move forward as a people and as individuals, and what path we can take to have a more fulfilling, just better experience here on Earth and potentially in the hereafter.
And I do want to say that although I am not a believer in a God, I think that belief is consistent with anarchism. In other words, I view anarchism as a rejection of government, a rejection of the use of the initiation of force to achieve social goals, which is, to me, the definition of government. It is, as you pointed out yesterday, the monopolization of the use of force, the initiation of force in a given geographical area. That's how you define government. If they couldn't do that, it would be a business or a charity. That's what they would be doing, and then it would be voluntary. So to me, that's the realm of anarchism, and that is consistent with someone's belief in God, especially if they do not impose their belief in God on somebody else.
Yeah, when it comes to the question of God, I think there's a question of, once again, meaning. Why are we here? Why were we put here? Is this just some big cosmic accident? Are we just a happenstance? Or is there something that life is leading to? I mean, I think the evolution of intelligence shows that the universe wants to create something that can observe it, that can comprehend and maybe try to find meaning in the universe, might be part of the meaning of the universe. It's something that can observe itself.
I definitely believe that we are the universe smart enough to observe itself. And with that concept, I think that thinking that my grandma, when my grandpa died, right before, she was really upset, and she's like, how merciful of a God to make him go through this. And I told her, I think if God was a human, that tree would be coming from outside, would be coming in and taking care of him. I don't think that God is a human. I think that we are literally observing what God would at the same time. And interestingly enough, I found out that we see 30 frames per second in our eyes. And, when we take psychedelics and things like that, those frames slow down, so you're able to see more of those shapes that I was talking about. And I'm sorry, I have like the worst short-term memory today. I'm like not even remember what I'm talking about.
It's early, don't worry about it.
It is early. So I don't think that, God is that you?
Hot mic. Let's just turn that off.
Okay.
I'll turn it back on.
Guess my idea was that God that isn't a human.
Try turning yours off.
Send me some with that one.
Okay.
Oh, cool. All right.
So that's an interesting thing about the idea of distractions. For example, one of the approaches I take when I meditate is that there are no distractions. So if I were meditating and these sounds were occurring, that would just be part of what I would be observing in the present moment. And it's not to be, I heard an example of, if you're listening to one of those old-fashioned records, phonograph records, and it's scratchy, if you were listening to the same music by a fire that's crackling logs, you wouldn't be upset in that context. So it's a matter of perspective.
Yeah, and you're not determining value for your experiences. You're just accepting them as they come in, and not saying, oh, that's a distraction, that's annoying, and oh, this is what I wanted to focus on. You're just taking it all in without judging. I get that. That sounds good.
And for those members of the audience, feel free to come up and ask questions. We'll hand you the mic. Or just shout it out and we'll repeat the question so it is included in the video. Or comments.
I have a question. If you're making it very clear that no matter what a person's religious sort of views or spiritual views are, that they would have a place in voluntarism, anarchy, or whatever word you like to use. Do you feel that different positions, like either atheism or Christianity or whatever it would be, have unique obstacles to overcome to be a real anarchist, or unique value?
Yeah, I do.
I'll repeat the question real quick. So the statement is that we're making it clear that different religious or spiritual beliefs are compatible with voluntarism or anarchism. But then the question is, are there different religions or beliefs that would have obstacles in terms of being an anarchist or voluntarist, and other ones that may have advantages in that regard.
Well, I can address that from my point of view. I'm a member of the religion called Discordianism, and I think that it plays very well with anarchist ideology. I'm not trying to proselytize because that is against my religion. But I think that its rejection of authority, its rejection of established order, and its focus on empowerment of the individual lends a lot of similarities to anarchist ideology. So I think that religion in particular has very few obstacles to go from being a Discordian to being an anarchist.
Okay, and one thing about that, I guess my question, one obstacle that I hear sometimes, and I'm being a Christian myself, is that there are certain things that to even label yourself a Christian or a Discordian, you're having to accept some teachings, some beliefs. And some people would say, well, that's just, you're not rejecting the authority, you're accepting the authority of Discordianism, and or I'm Catholic, you accept the authority of your bishop or the pope or something. And of course I feel like, I'm the word accepting, has a component of voluntary in it, or it certainly can. And how would you address that issue?
I don't think following a belief system qualifies as submission to authority. I can say that Macey's got some really good ideas and I want to agree with and follow her belief system. That doesn't mean she's an authority over me. It just means that we agree on something and we accept it. If you agree with the Catholic faith, then there you go. That doesn't mean the Catholic faith has authority over you. It means that you guys are working in concert with each other.
Right. Like if you go to work and you accept the authority of your boss.
Exactly. If it's a mutually beneficial, voluntary relationship, I don't consider it authoritarian at all.
Now, of course, historically, people have looked back and said that the state and the church worked together and had authority over people, and perhaps some of the rejection that people have of religion is looking back at that history. I don't see that happening today in this context.
It was happening in the 60s and after, with acid and psychedelics. The church and state both came together to. The church said that it was spiritually chaotic to try these drugs, and then the state said that they were inherently addictive and dangerous. And really what they were doing was opening people up to another realm of, dimensions, I don't know, just another realm of perception. And so that was, I'm pretty sure that's the last time that they worked together that I've read about.
As a Discordian, I really like the idea of spiritual chaos. Sounds good.
Also, I think with religions, interpretation is important. There are many different ways to interpret religious texts, and a lot of times those have been interpreted, or there have been selections made where people have said, well, here are the specific beliefs, and therefore you have to do it this way, and it may be a church doing it, a religious institution doing it, but of course individuals can read these texts and have a different interpretation. If you believe that the New Testament is the Word of God, you may have a different interpretation from someone else about what that means to you, and about then your relationship with God and your relationship with other people as a result of that.
If I could ask one, I think that I sometimes run into I guess you would say a non-denominational Christians who are sort of, compared to me, I'm a Catholic, they're very independent, and so they would feel like they would qualify to be a voluntarist because they read it and follow whatever they say they want in it, whereas a person who believed in a particular church, like I accept the teachings of my church, but there are some of things that, maybe I wouldn't have come upon on my own or would have been my own idea, but because I've accepted 95 of it purely good in my head, I sometimes have some things I don't understand, and I accept that too. And, but it seems to me that it is the voluntary acceptance that keeps me from, say, being disqualified from being a voluntarist. I do not feel compelled myself, nor do I want to compel anybody else. And I think everyone can get along with it. I think that voluntarists of different spiritual beliefs can probably get along better than most regular people, because statists just have a natural inclination to make other people get on board their boat, whereas we don't.
Yeah, that's what voluntarism is all about, is picking what's right for you. Anyone who says that if your belief system or what you do isn't right, or we don't agree with it, so you're not a voluntarist, I don't think that person is a voluntarist. Trying to impose your will and your belief system is the polar opposite of voluntarism.
Yes, the difference between, there's a big gap between what is required and what is permitted. In other words, there's much more that is permitted in a voluntarist system. Stop hitting her. I'll give her the mic.
Go ahead. I want to hear what you were saying.
So now I have short-term memory loss. So yeah, a difference between what's permitted and what's required. And in a truly authoritarian society, there would be no difference. You would have to do, everything that was permitted would be required. That would be the extreme situation in which you wouldn't have choices. Here, we're saying as voluntarists that there are certain actions that are unethical, but beyond that, there's a wide range of beliefs and activities that we can do voluntarily, and again, that acceptance of each other, I think, allows for acceptance of others' religious and spiritual beliefs.
And I think this is why we are evolving. We're consciously evolving, because 500 years ago, you weren't able to have your own views. If you even worked with plants, they would burn you at the stake. So it shows, even with voluntarism, it's showing that we are going through, an evolution, and more people are waking up to this message every day. And it doesn't really matter what religion or belief they come by, if they're, not pushing it on other people. That's, and just accepting it for themselves. I think that's, what's really changing right now, and it's really great to see.
The only wrong way to do voluntarism is to try to force your way on everybody else. That's the only way to screw it up. Otherwise, if you just let people live their lives, I think you're in.
So Macey, I'm interested in hearing more about sacred geometry. I know I've looked into this a little bit with like the golden ratio or the golden mean, and how that appears in nature in different ways, almost as though there is an ordering that is emergent, perhaps. That and I kind of wonder if the universe emerges, and if this is in a way, perhaps metaphorically, we through that see the mind of God. In other words, I remember someone saying to me, well, how can people study biology or whatever? This was a religious person. My take on it was, wow, look at how complex and beautiful nature is. And if you're going to see the work of God, the creation of God, you would see it in that. And then there's the hymn, Morning is Broken, and there's a line in that, I'm probably paraphrasing, that God's recreation of the new day. The idea that it's not God created the world, but God is like present in the world. And so I find those things meaningful, even though my concept of God is not a being, a separate being, but perhaps something that's more integral to the world.
So I think it's called, was it the Bogon-Higgs experiment, or the God, or the God particle. It's funny, when they did this experiment, when they crashed the atoms together, they found what they call as an invisible dancer controlling all the other dancers, or in control of all the dancers. That this is a dance. Everything that you see is a dance. And I've actually seen that on my DMT trip. It's like this dance that's going on. But within that, they found they've been using cymatics for a very long time. They've been using it for to make instruments like violins. And how they use it is after they create the shape of the violin to tune it, they put sand in it and then they vibrate it at different hertz levels. And with every hertz level, the sand makes these incredibly beautiful sacred geometrical shapes. And so it's showing that, everything is frequency. Everything is coming together. Even when, we look at ourselves, we are pretty equal on both sides, and 5 actually represents something in the Aztec world, but I can't remember what it is right now, so I'm not going to go into that. But there are so many different shapes, and they all resonate on different hertz levels. So 528 hertz levels, what I was talking about, it actually resonates in the shape of our DNA. It's a two-way spiral. I think it's 432 hertz resonates with the flower of life. And I actually just saw how the flower of life is made, and it's insane. It's absolutely mind-blowing to see like what nature is doing. And if you look at a sunflower, the middle of the sunflower, that's the flower of life. And nature is doing that by itself. It doesn't have a brain that's helping it. It's just the natural flow of the universe. Our Milky Way is a spiral. You see spirals in a lot of areas. Every galaxy seems to be a spiral. And then, of course, our DNA is a spiral. So there are lots of things in nature that show these patterns. There's also another pattern called branching. If you look at trees, branching is actually another form of sacred geometry. And so it's spotting, like the spots on a leopard. They all mean something. If you look at the back of a turtle, you can see, I forgot what the shape is called, but it's another sacred geometrical shape. So you see this everywhere in nature, and you see it within ourselves. So I don't know if people, I'm a big psychedelic advocate, and when I take...
Me too.
Yeah, okay, good. So if I take acid or mushrooms, I call it snowflake shapes, because everybody has these shapes on their face that I can see, but everybody's is different. So it's almost like we are little snowflake humans. It's cute. But you can see those, and that's why I like psychedelics, because it opens your eyes to this new realm, and you can see these shapes, and they're way more, you can't not see them anymore, but it's just easier to see them on different psychedelics when they alter your state of consciousness.
Questions, comments?
Shane, you're quiet over there, man.
Yeah, I'm just listening.
Anything else?
All right, well, thanks for coming, guys.